Booming Thunder Radio, where we groove as the spirit moves. Yeah. Drawing the honey from the rock with the righteous Reverend Doctor on Booming Thunder Radio.
Welcome, mighty friends, ye little angels of light in the heavens upon the earth, ye grace and peace, ye beyond all understanding, ye rage not your heart in unrighteous anger, ye stand with truth and honor, yea, and speak the word before evil, the Yahushua HaMashiach would do his work and make you marvel, yea, at the merciful hand of his Son, yea, you only have to believe, a measure the size of a mustard seed in your heart, little child of the light, ye, the greatest of all the Father's creations, given to each of us to delight as he has delighted all this time in goodness and mercy, to see the angel of light birthed forth, yea, in that mysterious way of Joseph and Benjamin, yea, like Elijah and Elisha, yea, hovering, yea, Mary to Jacob, yea, that Jared, yea, would be sifted, yea, they all would be sifted by their own hand until they are righteous and true. Or bring forth Ezra, yea, Nehemiah, and the Queen of Heaven. Yea, let them put their wafer into the honey pot and taste the sweetness of the vine. Yea, the Queen of Heaven in Ezra's heart. Have you ever understood the bondage, the blindness, yea, the mason's work, yea, inherited since the beginning of time, yea, given over that they would magnify the name of the Son, yea, and having the glory and the knowledge to set men free, yea, they lock it up, not even understanding it themselves, but not letting any other man receive the glory, yea, only revealed by our love for his Son, the pierced one, Yahushua HaMashiach, our Sabbath day King. Oh, as he was once in Ezra's heart, yea, as he was once in Esther's womb, and his merciful nature, yea, his peculiar way of hanging honey pots all around, wise master builder, I tell you a mystery. My whole life, the mystery of 213 has been in my heart. And the only man I have ever seen upon the earth that heralded the mystery of 213 was the golden eagle. So after the fall of old Jerusalem, the womb wanting a new Jerusalem, wanting that is carnal in its nature, having not been fed enough and watered enough in the ark with Noah. It's only been 7 days now. And after the destruction of the great temple of Solomon, and Herod, and everything in between and thereafter, the leaders of the people, those who were still alive, were carried off into captivity into Babylon. Mystery Babylon around the earth, even to this very moment. A smoldering scent in the air. Here they lived in exile for many years. In the time of Mystery Babylon, the mighty city of the whole earth was in its turn captured by the Persian king, likened to a golden eagle, Cyrus the Great, who tried to establish peace and prosperity in the many conquered countries that he ruled. He permitted the people living in New Jerusalem to rebuild the city hidden deep inside, and the holy temple, once destroyed by evil, their wickedness, God sent forth merciful hands, to lead them away, that the word would be made true. Cyrus permitted the people living in Old Jerusalem to rebuild the city and the temple, and promised that the treasures of Yahushua HaMashiach would be restored to Old Jerusalem. Oh, Mystery Babylon, in 1 hour she has fallen. The mighty city captured by the Persian, the promises that the treasures of Yahushua would be restored in New Jerusalem this day, the third temple rebuilt by wise master builders and their humble bondservants, those who bear their sword to the hilt each morning, giving themselves, as they are taken and as they are given, known and unknown, as a gentle breeze across the stillness of the lake, the coolness of the water, the greenness of the pasture on the hill. the lion lays in the darkness, knowing which way the lambs have entered in and out of the wilderness. Yea, may their mouths be chained, that they would pour forth the living water, yea, and cleanse the whole earth forever. This day as 1,000 years, and that this action would be in the spirit, as this day is in the natural for one day, in the spiritual for 1,000 years. Yeah, the chain upon the wash tub. Come get your feet washed this day, brother. The stain removed only by one. Yea, covered like a badger skin and a prayer shawl, fine linen, yeah, put around the queen of your heaven's heart, knowing Mystery Babylon, forgiving her, yea, all the tribes. For if you have not this mercy in your heart, you have not, yea, but a corrupted seed. You must take another seed and no other, the smallest of all the seeds, yea, that your split rock would stand as those that claim, yea, and show a hidden hand, a stonework 666 inches tall, y'all. Yea. Let the split rock of mighty Jehovah reveal the hidden hand that pours the oil, yea, into the widow's son. There is no other. Yeah. Nothing else greater in power seen upon the earth. Nothing but that mother's love. Yeah, and her right hand, full her heart, her very soul full of oil that never ends until there are no more vessels to fill. Yea, may the glory of mighty Yahushua HaMashiach, yea, the merciful hand of their mother, yea, and the golden anointing oil never be black upon their burning bush again. Yea, may the blood upon their door, yea, above and on both sides, that blood covenant that the death angel would pass over, and the fifth cup, yea, would be raised as the grandest of fathers sees Mashiach in the delight of his son, rejoicing, forgiving his father for all that we, the us, have inherited the lies. Yea, the mystery of inequity, yea, even until the very last day that the neck and the sword and the word pierce the veil. Yea, that we, the us, mere mortal men, wanting the truth, our love of the truth would reveal the Mashiach in our heart, that reveals the Ruach, yea, Yahovah's Spirit, mind of an anointed son, the hope of glory in each of our heavens. Yea, that he alone has the capstone key that goes in that keyhole and turns it one last time and unlocks the horn, yea, the hallowed place, yea, the beautiful gate, yea. Do you see it, brother? Are you building with Ezra this day? We know you are in bondage and cannot build in plain sight. Yea, there must be more work done. Yea, the great divide, yea, that place 50 miles wide must feel the dripping of the redness of the Baton Rouge. Yea, righteousness of a yellow submarine, standing in truth, honoring Yahovah's Son, Yahushua, in their heart, and sending forth but one, demanding righteousness and truth from our leaders openly into the world and then peacefully, giving them time to repent. And when their time has come and they are unrepented, then let the righteous judge the angels upon the earth, yea, and lead them away, or crown them as kings in the glory of the Father, yea, in the kingdom of light, to bring forth righteousness and truth, or be, yea, the piercing of the blade of their wickedness would lead them away into darkness forever. Or the glory in their scabbard would be a great light upon the mountain, yea, seen first as the tabernacle upon the mount of the hill. Yea, and all the tools and the laying of each humble bondservant's life upon the altar, their innocent blood, their spirits given for us all, yea, like lambs, bulls, and goats, yea, turtle doves, yea, even all the fowl of the earth, yea, let them be cleansed in the service of the tabernacle, that the glory of mighty Yahovah would be seen above the altar of unhewn stones rising in their hearts around the carnal understanding, the shadow picture of the glory of the Son that reveals, yea, the fullness of the Son in the kingdom of light on the Sabbath day. So following the rebuilding of that temple inside your heart in the new Jerusalem, the mighty golden eagle, Cyrus the Great, put a priest named Ezra in charge of the temple service. The king also granted him permission to lead another group of exiles back to Jerusalem in order to dedicate the treasures. The generous King Cyrus also gave Ezra gold and silver and money with which to buy bulls and lambs to offer. Yea, in the spirit of each, yea, of the 70 that are worthy to be a living offering each day for all the earth. Yea, let the Glory Broadcasting Network share their glory. Yea, that the cloud would be seen once more in the brightness of his coming. Yahushua, yea, like in days of old once more, 70 men in fine linen, the righteousness of their acts, yea, their prayers, their reverence to innocent blood, yea, and the glory given only to one, yea, the everlasting glory, the delight of the eternal Father, yea, the one he sent, that we are to Shema Israel. Yea, that our children would know the Mashiach in their heart when they turn the knob on, the 5th cup day, a mystery they'll never know. Their split hooves, yea, seen, but they have never chewed the cud, yea, like those they send to slaughter, and say their wickedness of prayers and the stench of the earth, yea, smelt in their hearts. So what did Ezra do? He began to prepare for the return to Jerusalem. Outside the city, on the shore of a stream named Ahava, the band of exiles, they camped. You wanna guess how many days them boys camped in the woods? That's right, 3 days. Yeah, it took them 3 days to organize the caravan. So Ezra went among them to make sure that all the leaders of the Israelites were with them. But he found that no Levites were there. Where are our Levites? Oh, they're the ones being grafted in. Yeah, their grandfathers is slain upon the whole earth, and the golden eagle's keen eye. The angels recording every verse. Many of the exiles preferred to stay in Babylon like that old mystery Babylon. Yea, that valley down under. They found it was that they'd rather settle there rather than to make the old long and old hard journey back to Jerusalem. They'd just rather stay there in Mystery Babylon. The Levites, they were a special priestly group, supposed to be. Yeah. And they were appointed to help take care of the temple. To kill everything. Sling innocent blood over all the stonework. Yea, hewn stone. Because Ezra wished to serve Mighty Yahovah so well, he recruited 38 of these 70 men to go with him to check the treasure and guard it. Yea, the treasure of the heavens inside. They were men set apart for this kind of tasks, so he chose them. Ezra, he then asked his people to fast for one day to show their reverence and to pray to Mighty Yahovah for protection during their journey. For Ezra knew that there were many enemies along the way who would try to ambush. Yea, the old ambush. Yea, only half as much fire as was before. So we fasted for a day that we might be protected on the journey. And all those that would dare to ambush us, yea, the elect hosts unseen upon the earth, yea, would lead them all away into the word made true in their hearts for 1,000 years. The caravan, this caravan finally arriving safely in Jerusalem with all the vessels of gold and silver, which were placed in the temple in devotion to Mighty Yahovah. Then the high priest took the bulls and lambs and gave them to Yahovah as a sacrifice. Yea, when all he wants is a living sacrifice, you, spotless lamb, the 70 in fine linen, to give of yourselves with Yehoshua HaMashiach, seen and unseen by the world. The Tzaddiks see the Mashiach in their hearts, and they alone can save a merciful hand. In the third temple, yea, the wise master builders work in their hearts. Yea, their keyhole field, their split rock understood. their fine linen on the Queen of Heaven this very day. So shortly after the treasures had been dedicated, officials of the temple brought Ezra bad news. The people who had been living in Jerusalem before Ezra and his men had returned there, and they were freely mixing a weaver's work with nations that worshipped idols. And they were also entering into marriages with strangers who did not serve mighty Yahovah. And a carnal seed placed in the Queen of Heaven. The whore of Mystery Babylon then made. So when Ezra heard this, he was deeply troubled for this, for he knew that this time no enemies had prevented his people from worshiping mighty Yahovah. They had simply turned away from mighty Yahovah through their own willfulness, their own free will and disobedience. Ezra fell to his knees in prayer, and he wept bitterly for all the people who had proved so faithless. While Ezra was praying, a great assembly of men, women, and children gathered around him, and one of the men stepped forward to speak to him. He told Ezra that there is still hope in Israel. For some of the people knew what mighty Yahovah had done for them. These people agreed to separate themselves from the idol worshippers and return to Yahovah. Ezra came forward and made the people take an oath, pledging themselves to do what they had promised, which was to send the idolaters away, leading them away from the New Jerusalem, and to be obedient to mighty Yahovah's will. And they pledged. And so that they would have a shadow picture of a house of prayer and the way that the service in their heavens that their carnal mind can't comprehend, as their spiritual mind is and their hearts are full of wickedness, devising wickedness continually. They've told so many lies they can't tell the truth. They know not the truth. They love not the truth because they have taken an oath to lie, and they have lied their whole lives, skillful of this craft, like, well, the craftsmanship, the skill of these men, likened to the scroll work, yea, and the hewn stone of the buildings of old, the precision, the perfection of each little chip removed. Do you know how amazing that beautiful piece of work brought forth by an angel who was once a mortal man and became an angel of glory, full of truth, and from their hands, yea, greatest windows, yea, greatest threads, yea, a split tail, yea, unseen, for the washing of the blindness of their eyes by the trickling of the water, yea, from the redness of the river's rock, yea, dyeing their lambskins white. Their sword, their blade, scabbard, a hope of glory in their hearts for all time. That when they would gaze now with the glory, the hope of glory, that mustard seed inside, and they gaze upon the living word, the mystery of heaven would begin to be revealed in their hearts and minds. So Ezra and all the wise master builders at his side rebuilt that temple in old Jerusalem. But the great wall that had once surrounded the city and protected the Israelites was still broken down. This was dangerous, as it was the time of frequent small wars and revolts against the rule of a great king in a distant city. The Israelites had been favored by the Persian ruler. He had ended their captivity, allowed them to return to their homes and rebuild the temple, and he had restored the treasures to the house of Yahushua HaMashiach, because they were loyal to the Persian king. The people in Jerusalem were often attacked, but they had no defense against the raids and plundering of their warring, pagan, even to this very day more wicked than before, their pagan neighbors, word to the court of the Persian king. Artaxerxes, of the terrible distress of the defenseless people of old Jerusalem. One of the highest ranking officials of the royal court is Nehemiah, who has risen from the group of exiles to become the king's cupbearer. When Nehemiah heard of the suffering of his fellow Israelites in Jerusalem, he wept and prayed and mourned so greatly that the king asked him what the trouble was. He told the king that the city, the place of his father's tombs, tombs lay in waste, and the gates were burned down. Nehemiah then asked the king to send him to Yehuda, to the city of Jerusalem, to rebuild it. Artaxerxes granted this request and gave him passports and letters of authority, which made him the royal governor. When Nehemiah, yea, our brother, our heart goes out to you this day. At the love of Mashiach, your love of the truth, yea, would be magnified by Yahovah in the twinkling of your eye, your eyes becoming two as one with Yahoshua, the pierced one, the Mashiach. We've all longed to unlock the heavens, the mystery of the heavens inside. Warring pagan neighbors, broken down walls, the Persian king, yea, wanting a Nehemiah to come forth. Travelers from Yehuda brought word to the court of the Persian king, Artaxerxes, of the terrible distress of the defenseless people in Jerusalem. One of the highest-ranking officials of the royal court is Nehemiah, who had risen from the group of exiles to become the king's cupbearer. When Nehemiah heard of the suffering of his fellow Israelites in Jerusalem, he wept and prayed and mourned so greatly that the king asked him what the trouble was. He told the king that the city, the place of his fathers' tombs, lay in waste and the gates were burned down. Nehemiah then asked the king to send him to Yehuda, to the city of Jerusalem, to rebuild it. Artaxerxes granted this request and gave him passports and letters of authority, which made him the royal governor, first in the natural, yea, this day in the spiritual, yea, that the eternal Father, the Ruach HaKodesh, the Son, forgiving the Father, and the Father giving all two things to his Son. These two, unseen as one in your heart, in each of our hearts. So, when Nehemiah arrived in Jerusalem, he spent a couple of days learning about the situation. Care to guess how many days he thought about things? That's right. 3 days. Probably closer to 3.5, but it was that third day. Then, taking only a few of the men, his most trusted bondservants, he went out to inspect the broken walls at night. He did this secretly because he did not want his enemies to know about his plan to rebuild the fortifications. Yea. Lest they attack while the defenses were weakened. Yea. Sea bees. righteous, never wicked, never lusting for innocent blood, having all they need hidden inside their heart with the Mashiach, his innocent blood. That's all the blood we need, to bring forth a power, the greatest power seen upon the earth, a mother's love for her son, and the greatest power your carnal mind could never imagine, the greatest power unseen, the Father's love for his Son, the mighty merciful hand unseen, the eagle's talons, and the perfect timing of Yahovah, and the momentum that brings the goat in the air and lowers it to the ground. Oh, many craftsmen, skilled men that could, that one day would be able to create this magnificent stone scroll work again upon the earth, unseen for hundreds of years. In the palms of men's hands, the glory of God. May it come forth in the Mashiach's heart, in your temple, in your worship, inside heaven. He would reveal the garden of Adam and Eve once more. The cherubim would allow you access, past the split rock into the living water, to eat from the tree of life, that our back would be to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that our children would never see or eat of its fruit, or their beastly desire, completely subdued inside the ark of Noah, a coat like the rainbow of many colors, revealed inside of heaven's tabernacle by the seven spirits, that menorah over our shoulders burning brightly, that we may eat the bread, and that the salt would be upon our lips and never thrown out into the street. All these masterful craftsmen, merchants, men of Tyre, from the city neighborhoods, farmers, and workers, slave and free, from the nearby towns, even the priests from the temple, they all came to join in this great undertaking. The glory of Mashiach rising each morning in their heart. The fourth watch, their feet washed each morning before, the wickedness of dawn's early light, the reflection that deceives the hearts of all those blotted out from the Lamb's book, all those that seek innocent blood, that lay in wait to slay and kill innocents and devour it. This is the world of Mystery Babylon. We have been taught this is normal. Let us each move into a living water distilled by each drop and blessed for our children, eating only the food of Cain, in remembrance of our sins, humbling ourselves for 40 days and 40 nights at the curse, at the pharmakia of Mystery Babylon would be broken, that the wax could begin to be melted from your ears. You are under a spell and a curse of Mystery Babylon, and their sorcery and pharmakia, and everything you drink. You, spotless lamb, must save your family. Distill the water drop by drop. From a purest source of water you can find, then distill that water. That you'll, and bless it between your hands. Like those mighty men of old drinking from the brook by the willow. So at first glance, the enemies of the Israelites ridiculed Nehemiah. They would dare not do that to Nehemiah. But we are not suffering in this day and time. Those that sent us to suffering, their day, the judging of those angels has come forth. And so, Nehemiah, this mighty man of God, his craftsmanship, the sharpness of his blade, like no other man will ever be, is now, or has ever been. This angel, unseen by all, he roars, but his whelp, is all that he has let seen. The unseen world, the mighty rushing wind, Mashiach, the love of truth, that's all it is, that spirit of truth. Oh, glory, when men go forth with oh, glory in their heart, like David, not a single man will be lost. So, back in Old Jerusalem, never in New Jerusalem, at the first glance of the Israelites, their enemies, first time they saw Nehemiah, they ridiculed him and all of these men of valor at his side for attempting so great a task. But when they saw how the walls grew, they became very angry and plotted together to attack and stop the work. Nehemiah prayed to Yahovah and kept all the men of valor at work. In addition, each worker kept his weapons at his side, and those who were not at work guarded the others. Ye sea bees, ye 80 years, ye coming forth. This show of force discouraged the enemies, yea, for their faith that Yahushua HaMashiach would fight for them as they stood, having done all with Mashiach in their heart. They just stand, and Mashiach's spirit leads them away or slays them before their eyes. This is the mystery of heaven. In a greater measure, that darkness trembles at these words, for they're being led away into captivity their day. Yea, let them go willingly, or let them feel the thrust of the sword. This show of force discouraged the blue meanies, these enemies, and so the workers finished the walls and the gates and the towers and all that was needed to make the old city safe. When this great work, this perfect work was done in the hearts in this day and time, Nehemiah gathered all the peoples to join in a great procession. Yea, the priests, their assistants, the Levites, who sang and played the musical instruments. Yea, the angels of heaven in the earth, and the community leaders. Yea, the watchful eye, the keen eagles, all of them marched around the walls and past the great gates to give thanks and to dedicate, yea, the wall to Yahovah. All of the walls, on both sides of the wall. Nehemiah, his assignment now completed, returned to the court of King Artaxerxes. After staying there for a short while, he went to Jerusalem again, and he found that things were not as good as when he had left them. The people were not prosperous, and they had neglected to make their offerings to God at the temple. The priests had become careless, and a man named Tobiah had even moved his furniture into one of the temple chambers. Nehemiah was very angry. Don't make Nehemiah mad, y'all. And he alone made Tobiah move his possessions out of the holy place by the word of his mouth. Then he brought the people back to worship at the temple, yea, as Yahushua HaMashiach had commanded, in the heavens inside, not the heavens outside. The carnal nature of Satan's mind ruling over your carnal nature, for you, yea, refuse to become clean. So many, but yet there is a remnant always. Let the remnant, birth the kingdom of light in each heavens, sons of glory filled with hope, the love of the Son, that one pierced, that the fullness would reveal all things. There were also other reforms that had to be made. I wonder what those could have been. I wonder what they are today. Many people were working, selling, and doing many other things on the Sabbath day, breaking that fourth commandment. Others were breaking God's laws and marrying idol worshipers. Can you believe such an iniquity? The beastly nature of men's low-hanging fruit. Uncircumcised, a lustful nature, overtakes us all. It's only by the mercy of Yahovah himself to send his Son to reveal the King of righteousness in our hearts, each of our hearts, that we, together with him, can rebuild the temple in our hearts and revealing the everlasting glory in our minds. Others still were breaking other laws of God, willingly, laws they knew. Nehemiah stopped all these sins so that the people of Israel might truly worship God and obey his laws, in the heavens. First in each heaven, the beautiful gate opened wide, opened that no man can shut, and shut that no man can open. So back in the olden days, there lived another rich and powerful king. His name was Ahasuerus. Forgive me, brother. He ruled all of the Persian Empire. To celebrate his great prosperity, this king invited his princes, noblemen, and servants to a big feast, which lasted for 7 days. Hallelujah, Yahovah, and the everlasting glory, Yahoshua HaMashiach, that we may dine with him. On the last day of the celebration, like unto this very day, the king sent for his beautiful wife Vashti, because he was proud of her and wanted to present her to the people. But Vashti refused to come at the king's command. The king was enraged at the queen's rude behavior and felt that her actions might encourage other wives to disobey their husbands. So he sent Vashti away from the palace and issued a decree. Yeah, carnal men issue things like these. Yeah, like a pile of papal bull. This called all the beautiful young maidens of the land to come before him so that he could choose a new queen. A Jew by the name of Mordecai heard of the decree and was eager for his niece Esther to go before this king, because she was very beautiful. So Mordecai brought Esther to the palace, first advising her not to tell anyone that she was of the house of Israel. Yeah, the Queen of Heaven. No one could see, only a Cajun queen. Oh, alligator belly rub coming on. Yeah, crocodiles too. So when she went before this king, he could not take his eyes away from her. He fell in love with her and preferred her to all the other maidens. And so he set the royal crown on Esther's head and made her queen in place of Vashti. After several days had passed, Esther's uncle Mordecai happened to pass two of the king's guards and overheard them plotting to murder the king. Immediately Mordecai went to Esther, who in turn told the king of the plan to murder him. When the matter was investigated, the two guards confessed to the plot and were put to death. Then the king appointed a man named Haman, in whom he had great trust, to be his chief officer in charge of the many princes and governors in the land. All the people of Persia bowed down to Haman to show their respect for the king's favored servant. But Mordecai, he did not trust Haman and refused to bow down to him. Haman was filled with fury and hatred and vowed that he would punish not only Mordecai, but all the Jews of the land. Haman went to the king with an untrue story, breaking the law of God, bearing false witness. He told the king that certain people in Persia were following their own customs instead of obeying the king's laws. Haman urged the king to destroy these people because he said they were weakening his kingdom. The king trusted and believed Haman, and so he gave him full permission to do whatever he believed was necessary for the good of the country. Would he be loyal to what he is entrusted with? Or will his ultimate power corrupt him ultimately? Oh, Father, let the glory, the everlasting glory of your Son, the faithful and true one that never leaves our heart, inside, he is a prisoner with us of the divine love. We want nothing but the glory in our heart and mind. And that hope in our children's hearts and minds is almost more than we can bear, mighty Father. Oh, that they would be strong and mighty to contain your glory, even in their youth. With the king's permission, the evil Haman ordered the death of every Jew in the land. Have you heard this story before? Think 1939. Yeah, and each piece of silver, each mercury head flying forth, until there were 3, and then there were 1. And when the 1 takes 2 and sets 1 before his eyes and places them in his pocket, and then he, in his humility, righteousness, and truth, call with hands raised to Yehoshua HaMashiach for what is to be revealed, for the glory of God. The glory of God alone. Then he can put his left hand in his pocket and remove the buffalo nickels. And if Mercury's eyes are 4 and 2, 4, 4, 4, 2, then you know the word is true. If 1 is seen looking forward and 1 behind, you know that wickedness is at work. And when your faith, this mustard seed, has grown, the quicksilver before your eyes is for that son, my son, that you alone truly know. So when Mordecai heard this fearful news, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and robes of grief. Then he went to Esther's chambermaids and asked them to take the news to Esther. He also told them to ask her to go before the king and plead for her people's safety and for her own life. However, there was a royal custom that no one could approach the king unless that person was sent for. If any man or woman disobeyed this rule, the penalty was death. But Esther knew that she had to speak to the king. Yea, and she had faith, yea, in the grandness of the split rock unseen, in the water that it springs forth. Not only to save her own life, but for the sake of all her people, the lovers of mighty Jehovah, yea, the lovers of truth, yea, still veiled in Persia. So she put on her most beautiful royal robes and stood at the entrance to the king's palace. Yea, the king was sitting on his throne, and he at once saw his fair queen standing before him. Instead of being angry, the king was pleased to see her and held out his golden scepter to show Esther that she was welcome. And Esther drew near and touched the end of the king's scepter as a sign of respect to the king. Do you understand? Then the king promised to grant any wish for Esther, even if it meant giving away half of his kingdom. The king didn't call for her to come, but when she came and touched his scepter, he gave forth, yea, even half the kingdom into her hand. But Esther explained that her only wish at the moment was that the king and his officer Haman to join her at dinner the next evening. Both the king and Haman accepted Esther's invitation, and Haman went away feeling very happy and honored that the queen had chosen him as her guest. Yea, the cunning nature of her humbleness before the king. Yea, gave Haman a feeling of delight and honor that the queen had chosen him as her guest. In fact, he felt so safe and sure of both the king and queen's favor that he had the gallows made for Mordecai's hanging the next morning. That same evening, the king had trouble falling asleep, so he sent for a special book in which all the memorable deeds in the land were recorded. The king was reading. He came to the part which told how Mordecai had saved his life by exposing the murderous plot of the 2 royal guards. The king asked his servants if any honor or reward had been given to Mordecai. And they replied that nothing had been done for him. Just then, Haman entered the king's chamber to speak to the king about Mordecai's hanging. As the gallows were prepared, but before Haman could say anything, the king asked his trusted officer, "What shall be done to the man whom the king delights to honor?" And Haman thinking that the king wanted to honor him, said, I would give this man royal robes that the king has worn, a horse that the king has ridden, and let him ride, yea, mighty through the streets of the city, for all the people to honor, yea, in the kingdom of heaven, or in Mystery Babylon's darkness of light. Then the king said to Haman, make haste, take the robes and the horse, as you have said, and do so to Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Haman was shocked by the king's request, but he obeyed the king. In great anger and jealousy, he led Mordecai through the streets to be honored by the whole of Mystery Babylon. The next morning, the king and Haman attended Queen Esther's feast. While everyone was eating, the king said to Esther, what is your wish? And Esther replied, my wish is that you save the lives of my people and myself, for we have been ordered to die. Then the king said, who is this man who could do such a thing? Again, Esther replied, yea, a foe and an enemy of the worst kind, yea, a snake that slithers in, yea, that Aaron's budded rod would consume them all, in Mordecai's delight. Yea, wickedness of Haman! He has ordered the death of all the Jews, and since the treasured queen, mother of heaven, is a Jew, the treasured queen is to die also. Angrily, the king rose to his feet and ordered Haman to be hanged from the very gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. Then the king gave Haman's house to the queen of heaven and chose Mordecai to be his chief officer in place of Haman. When the Jews heard of this great victory, the villainous Haman, who threatened to take their lives, they all gathered and made an enormous feast. And to this very day, every year, the worshippers of Mariahovah, yea, that have the glory of the everlasting glory of the Son in their hearts, celebrate a holiday called Purim, that Yahoshua HaMashiach would come upon their children's hearts, at which time this ancient story of Esther would be made true in their ears this day. Yea, that all the little children, yea, would be transfigured into the new wine. Yea, grafted back in. The blackness of the olives not seen in the oil, only the golden, pure and extra virgin. Do their split rocks rise in the desert and stand more mighty, than the grandest of their phallic symbols in Mystery Babylon. Almighty Father, merciful One, lead them away. Slay all those that will come upon the Sabbath day. While we rest and renew with you. May Yahushua HaMashiach and the elect hosts unseen, the clouds in heaven upon the earth, would slay any snake, consuming it, the rod of Aaron. That it would be in the Ark of the Covenant, and the pot, of manna from the 40 years would be a remembrance that their sons did not forgive their fathers. And some of the sons would not cross over into the promised land, for they knew better than mighty Yahovah, and denied the truth, and loved the lie, and corrupted the hearts of all of Israel. Their inheritance, whom has it now?